overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah. Hello and welcome to another episode of Onika Talks. I'm your host, Onika Brathwaite. I just want to say thank you guys for watching, thank you for sharing, thank you for commenting. It is greatly appreciated. I also want to say thanks to those of you who have sent me some topics. Today's topic was the unanimous topic that I have received over the weeks, especially after my session last week. I guess based on how that went, this is where most of the comments came from. Today is a story type time of day. Today is Saturday. I had some serious difficulties in getting this filming done. If it wasn't a technical error, it was some computer glitch. It was serious trying to get this out to you guys, but here I am trying it in a new location, and let's get right into it. Okay, so today's topic is what, how, why, and kind of what made me decide I wanted to become a Christian. Let me just say, I never decided I want to be a Christian. I never even considered it. I never thought about it. It just kind of happened. It wasn't something that I intentionally set about to do. It was not something that I planned. It was not even something I wanted at the time. What I would say is that a series of events have brought me to the place I'm at today. Let me just give you a little insight or follow-up to where I am now. 5 years ago, I was pregnant with my third child, and she's now deceased, which I will speak about when I'm talking about grief and how I overcame that. But 5 years ago, I was pregnant with my third child, a little girl. And when I was 4 months pregnant, I got some, I would say, devastating news, which caused me to believe that I could no longer continue with the pregnancy. That story in itself is for a discussion another time as well. But I made my decision without any influence from anybody, without taking all things into consideration. I decided I was going to terminate my pregnancy, and I set about to do so. I made phone calls to various doctors because my doctor that I was seeing at the time, she was adamant she was not going to be involved in that process. And I more or less went through the entire phone book looking for someone who would. Out of all the doctors there, only 2 of them agreed to, but the price that they charged me because I was so far along was too much for me to handle, and that is where I had to think some. But I was determined to find that money one way or the other, because based on all that was facing me, I guess a lot of it was pride and what people would say and what people would think and how it will look and how it will affect me in the long run, determined that I could not continue with the pregnancy. All that being said, one day I was getting dressed. That said day that I got the news, and I decided I was going to terminate the pregnancy. After calling all the doctors in the phone book, I actually was getting dressed, and I said, you know what, I don't care what nobody say, I'm doing this thing today. And I heard a voice say, don't do it, you're gonna be good. And I thought to myself, I ain't know about good, because I honestly thought I was just having this conversation with myself. And I went on hurrying and getting dressed. And as soon as I put my shoes on, and I said, me, I ain't care who say what today. I going, and somebody got to do this thing for me. And I heard the voice again said, no, don't do it. You're going to be good. And with that, I started to cry because I knew no one else was at home. I actually went and I searched the room, searched the house, and I couldn't find anybody. So I called my mom and I said, Mom, I just heard a voice. She asked me what it said, and I told her what it said. She asked me what was I saying prior to hearing the voice, and I told her. She says, don't you know who that was? I said, no. Because honestly, the last person on my mind was God. I heard what she said. I took note and I said, but Lord, how you could tell me don't do this? You understand what I'm going through? You understand what this means? You understand how much people are going to laugh at me? You understand that I'm going to be the laughing stock amongst my peers? I can't do this. I prefer to get rid of this and move on with my life gingerly. But when I got to my doctor, she sat and she explained to me, regardless of what is going on, that is a life. And I mean, everything she told me I already knew. If one of my friends had told me the same thing, I would have the perfect advice for them. But itself out of the equation, I thought to do what was best, which really wasn't the best thing for me. All that said, I went on with my pregnancy. I prepared myself, traveled, got everything I needed to have. Looking forward to this baby girl, and I got over what I felt I couldn't get over. So I went to term, had a big, beautiful, bouncing baby girl, and I was determined to give this girl everything I didn't get to do with my first two. Yes, they had good lives, but as a parent, we all know that there are things that we would love to do with our children that when the time comes, you don't get around to doing it. It slips you because you're overwhelmed with other things. And I was adamant that this child would have been the child that I do everything with, which included giving her the Christian upbringing that I had. Because based on where I was at emotionally and mentally with the other two, I did not really give them that sound Christian upbringing. So I set out to do that. I felt like that was the thing that me and my children would do on Sunday mornings, give some of our time to God, because I have spent so much time giving other things and other people my time. And I committed to doing that, not necessarily for me, but for the children. All that being said, 6 months later, my daughter passed away. I was so upset with God. I was so upset with God. I was like, Lord, you told me I was going to be good. How could you do this to me? And I blamed him, and since then I had to ask him for forgiveness for blaming him for something that he himself did not do. But at that time, that is how I felt. And what made it worse, the day before she died, some women from family members' church had come to pray with her when she was not feeling well. And I felt like that meant that she would be good, because despite I strayed, I grew up in church. I grew up knowing about God, and I grew up, even if not only from my grandmothers, but having my own understanding. Even if it was only through Bible stories, I accepted that God was who he was. At 15 years old, I went into church. I think it was Natalie, Olivia, and Juanita. We started to go to this church on Westbury Road, and I felt like, yeah, this is it now. And I felt like this real cool Christian girl. But that didn't last, because we all know in our teenage years, we find ourselves distracted with all kinds of things, and you end up going to church, and there are boys around the corner, so you're supposed to be going to church, and you end up where you ain't had the right being. So all that to say, you got distracted. So I did have a foundation in Christ. I understood who God was, but I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to get out there, because, you know, I was kind of restricted as a young girl. Anyhow, I went, I had my daughter, she passed away, and the Sunday after she passed away, I was determined I didn't want to see no church. But funny enough, I sensed that Sunday morning following that she would have wanted me to still continue. And I know now it was not necessarily her, but it was God. And I decided I'd still go. And I went that Sunday, and when I got there, I realized it was Christening Sunday. And I think that made it worse, because not only was it Christening Sunday, but I was going through so much pain and emotion that I started to look at these young ladies with their kids and thought to myself, well, how she get to keep her child and I didn't. She don't even look like she take care of a baby. And I started comparing myself and comparing our situations. I even went as far as to verbalize, but look, the child's father isn't even around. My child's father was around. I had a big support system, but my child is gone and theirs is there. So I became overcome with emotion and I left church. When I was leaving church, this gentleman, he asked, is your name Onika? I said, yes, it is. He says, you went looking for me last week. I said, I did, but I don't think I need you anymore. What I didn't know is that this is the same man who I would have attempted the week before to make an appointment to get counseling with. I didn't think I needed counseling, but everybody around me thought I did. And I felt like I should do it because what else am I to do? Either way, he took me to his office that same Sunday morning and we sat and we talked. But I guess God knew who he was going to use to get me from that place I was at, because I really was broken. As I said, I will go into depth about what made me determine I was going to terminate the pregnancy in the first place, and it will bring to fruition the rest of this story. Either way, I went to counseling and it went really well. I never thought I needed counseling, but it worked out that I did, and he kind of saved me from where I was. He gave me an insight to who I was to God. He brought down the words that were spoken to me that day when I was leaving home to go to the doctor. He explained to me that being good did not mean that life was going to be perfect and my daughter was going to go to university and make me proud, or she would have her own business and make me proud. He actually broke it down and gave me the understanding of what God was trying to say to me at the time, that regardless of what I was going through, that I was going to be okay as long as I trusted him. I found that out years later, by the way. But I guess that's where I started my process. The church that I go to now had to be the type of church it is in order to keep me, because I am not a boring girl. I don't like boring. I don't like typical. I like out the box. And I found that I never stayed in church prior to now because I've never found a church that basically filled me, that I connected with. And one Friday my mom went to work and she left and she came back. I said, what did you forget? She said, nothing. I'm just back here to tell you that God told me to tell you that you should give him a try. And all I could do was cry. Yes, because it was sad, heartbroken, all that. But that was the third person in that 1 week that told me the same exact thing. And I thought, all right, I'm going to go and see what this church is that you have been visiting for the last couple of weeks. And I went, and that day, whatever the message was, connected with me on such a level that it changed me without me wanting to be changed, without me thinking about changing. I just felt like everything he said was directed at me, and it was difficult to comprehend because I knew I didn't leave home for this. But I needed a prophetic ministry. I needed somebody to tell me exactly who I was and what I was and what God saw me to be and what I was going through. And I felt like I found exactly that. And I just took it step by step. It was a process. I have a long way to go, but I am not where I used to be. And I think that's the most important thing. I am grateful for that. And there are things that will change and there are things that will remain the same but come to its fullness. I am still who I am. I will make mistakes because I'm a human being, but at least I'm trying. And I think that is the most important thing. From outside, we think Christianity is this perfect place with perfect people, but it is not. All God wants from us is for us to try. And that is what I am determined that I will continue to do. Try, give God a chance to fix me and clean me and mold me, and that's where I am. So I would urge you, don't think about stopping all the things that you do now first. Give God a try first, and he will do what he has to do to stop you from doing the things that he don't need you to do anymore. And that's it for this week. I hope to see you again soon.